And the most pragmatic way forward, I think, is thinking that these jobs are not going to go away fully. All it will be is the nature of the job, the tools that you use will change. It could be that you can get through work quicker. It could be that you get a better work-life balance. Whatever route your company, the industry, the vertical, the worker takes, I'm not necessarily worried about it as long as we're all working towards using AI, new technologies, with our eyes open. We don't want to then say, okay, let's remove so many programmers' jobs, let's remove so many policy professional jobs out of the industry because we're losing so much experience that AI doesn't have.
Welcome to Inside Pharma Leadership. I'm your host, Keith Willis, and today we have a great show. I am joined by Chris Hayden, Partner Manager at Scilife, a smart quality platform designed specifically for life science organizations. Scilife focuses on helping companies turn quality and compliance into a competitive advantage rather than just a regulatory requirement. So, Chris, welcome to our show.
Brilliant. Nailed the intro, Keith.
Oh, thank you. Your background started in science and moved through Google and regulated industries before landing in life sciences. What pulled you into the quality and compliance side of the industry?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people like me, after doing science degrees, we all fall into somewhere, right? And more people, as I go to conferences, we're going to about 7 or 8 this year. I talk to many individuals just like me that studied science, but really wouldn't be very good scientists. I didn't really have the patience for being in a lab or looking at data all that too much. I prefer a fast-moving pace. I'm pretty outgoing by nature, so going into, first commercial side of businesses, that was an easy choice for me. I loved working with individuals that had a particular need and that technology could fill that need. And then I suppose myself, I'm a technology nerd by nature. So yeah, when Google came knocking, I went running, to be honest. But from there, I decided to use a bit more of my degree, went working for a data science company in Ireland, and it very quickly exposed me to highly regulated environments. And from there, it's a pretty natural progression into life sciences and in particular quality. It's probably through that background that I have that I've worked for consulting companies, I've worked for technology vendors, that it's the right fit to be a partner manager where I'm working day in, day out with consultants and then working with the life science industry because, I would understand a bit more of the vernacular, but yeah, I think it's that fast-paced environment that I really like, and then mix into it with all the highly regulations. And right now we're going through a big change. So yeah, here I am.
Okay. All right, cool. So tell me a little bit about that change that you're going through right now.
Yeah, we're seeing the rise of AI very quickly across every industry, but it really struck me that the life science industry in particular, that's notoriously risk averse, is willing to get behind AI. If that's using AI in tools, software, or indeed daily life. I talk to quality professionals almost every day, and it strikes me very quickly that they want to use AI to make their job quicker, enables them to spend more time on quality processes, the substance of what they're doing, making sure that their expertise and their experience can be lent in the best possible way, not just filling out and writing SOPs, but thinking about what should be the main vibe or the main feeling from a particular SOP or process. Really where AI, I think, is really becoming its own. It can write everything very fast for you, so you can spend more of that time thinking about what should it say, how should it say it, and let ChatGPT, let Anthropic and all of these other tools do some of that hard work for you, so you can spend time actually delivering value in the substance of what's being delivered.
Okay. Yeah, talk a little bit more around the SOPs. I know one of the challenges that I saw, we were working with they were trying to build a new manufacturing plant with robotics and things, and one of the big areas around SOPs, pharma, like, even the military, which I was in, has a lot of SOPs.
Yeah.
A lot of times we have people read these things and we do like a read and sign, but it doesn't mean that you know how to actually utilize the SOP. So how do you work around that when, these SOPs, sometimes they're huge, but how do you set it up in a way where people that are on the floor can use the SOP in a way that helps them be able to generate work?
Yeah, good question. I mean, look, for the last 30, 40, 50 years, we've always worked with text, and it'll take you a long time to actually understand that text. Regulations came along to put in trainings so that you could sign off on the fact that somebody does understand an SOP. But now we're seeing more and more with our clients that they're using video SOPs, they're using work instructions in visual. I was talking to a contact before Christmas at a conference where his company spends time actually pulling SOPs into AR, augmented reality. In essence, it's the precursor to virtual reality, where if an engineer is looking at a piece of equipment, they can use some glasses or AR equipment and it will guide them step by step through that process. So they could be cleaning it, they could be calibrating it, they could be doing maintenance on it. So that's one thing, the different media that's out there for SOPs. But the other side to that is, how do you generate SOPs? As I just talked about, you have AI tools that can build and write SOPs perfect. But now we're seeing tools that can actually interpret SOPs as well. So it's almost like two machines are talking to each other and then translating into a language that's easily understood, no matter what the education level, no matter what language it is, no matter what part of the business you're in. You can really drill down into the SOP, the section of the SOP that matters for you most, and then maybe link that to a work instruction. And then a bit further along that journey is, or I should say before that journey, when quality professionals are setting up these SOPs, they need to do trainings alongside of those. So using AI in conjunction to say, okay, what should my people here be trained on? What should they really know in their head, and not necessarily regurgitate, but how do they feel that SOP so that they can rely on their experience when needed most? So that's where AI is kind of coming into its own with all these SOP generations and learning about them.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, because I know that on the manufacturing side, there's so many more SOPs, and that oftentimes they have a training team that sits behind them. These are folks that aren't necessarily experts in, the quality management, the QMS parts of the business, but they are learning professionals. How have you seen that transition of helping getting those teams up to speed, I guess would be one, and then being able to relay that information to the supervisors that are on the floor that oftentimes have the responsibility to direct that type of training?
Yeah, another great question. I think the one thing that's at the heart of the work that we do here at Scilife is, firstly, giving quality professionals a voice. So we spend a lot of time talking to those quality professionals, whether they're our clients, partners, contacts, prospective clients. We want to hear from them. Scilife was originally brought up and built for SMB, mid-market, by a consultancy firm, QBD Group. And QBD basically built Scilife for exactly that, giving the quality leaders a voice. Because, you've got a lot of QMS systems on the market right now, but Scilife is one of the more easily intuitive tools. So that goes a long way. And it's really because it was built by life science professionals, quality professionals, that it can do that. The other side to that is when you go into the system and you look at the intuitiveness of Scilife, and you won't need much training on it yourself, it means then you can spend more time in creating a quality culture. And that quality culture, we've tried to gamify it. We have certain aspects of the system that scores you on your quality behavior, whether that's signing off on SOPs, completing trainings. So that's one thing. But the other thing is what we've already talked about. Reading an SOP and understanding an SOP are two different things. If you can create that culture and even spend more time creating that culture from the top down about quality first, it means that it's no longer just a department. It runs throughout the organization. And if you think about it, using an EQMS, using SOPs, everybody in the organization touches this almost. So you want to be able to give your quality folks a way that they can spend more time talking and educating leaders in the company, who can then educate their teams quicker, rather than behind the desk and writing these SOPs. You want to focus on the substance. So if you have tools that are out there that can help you do that, such as Scilife, it's a win-win.
It's interesting just kind of listening. I had a potential client reach out to me, and they were looking for an accountability workshop. I remember having a conversation with them, and they were at the same time rolling out a coaching program. and it was the grow model. And I remember thinking, well, it doesn't take that long to roll out the grow model. I can see why you're having issues with accountability. How do those two pieces, the soft skills and the technology, move together? Because ultimately, what we're trying to do is get the technology to enable people to be able to be, I like to say, more human. Because
Yeah.
I really do truly believe that that's what AI does. But how do you help companies make that transition around those pieces, accountability, coaching, feedback, those type of things that supervisors need to be able to do on the floor?
Yeah. I think it starts with one, having that more time to spend with people and do that. But if you're using systems that operate on a human first centric position, that's huge. Every company that I've ever worked for, I've always said customer centric. I've always said customer first. But in today's world, it's even more important because we do have all these technologies. And then even in our private lives, we're spending on the screen. We need to actually spend time educating and using those soft skills. When we're onboarding new people in Scilife, we have a huge emphasis on making sure that that person feels welcomed, knows what they're doing, and just gets to know each other on a one-to-one basis. Our clients as well, one of the main selling points for us, it's not just the platform, it's not just the tools, it's the fact that we are human-centric. We will pick up the phone and talk to a client or a prospect if they need help, advice, or need something from us. It's not just all done by email. You know, we want to get that information because there's a lot of non-verbal information transmitted when two people are talking. So if you create that culture of human first, human touch, you'll see that spread, you know, and you get work done quicker. So if you're responsive and willing to work with people, that goes a long way in helping bring along soft skills because people are always learning. New people into the industry, and certainly in today's world, I can imagine that their soft skills may not be as fulfilled as me or someone who's come from a less digital world. But, you know, just have patience and do speak to them on a one-to-one basis. Jump on a call like this, see each other face to face, turn your cameras on in meetings. It's simple stuff, but I believe that if you do the small, simple things right, everything else follows.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you work around, a lot of people feel that with AI, it's going to take jobs away. How do you work around that? And especially within, being on a floor, ideally these systems are going to help make work, I don't know if easier is the right word, but flow more effectively. But I think ultimately people do think it's going to take jobs away. What are your thoughts on how do you work with clients around those issues?
Yeah, it's certainly a concern. It's a concern for the macroeconomics of it. I mean, what's going to happen when we get there? But the fact of the matter is, we're not there. And the most pragmatic way forward, I think, is thinking that these jobs are not going to go away fully. All it will be is the nature of the job, the tools that you use will change. It could be that you can get through work quicker. It could be that you get a better work-life balance. Whatever route your company, the industry, the vertical that you work in takes, I'm not necessarily worried about it as long as we're all working towards using AI, new technologies with our eyes open. You know, you don't want to then say, okay, let's remove so many programmers' jobs, let's remove so many quality professional jobs out of the industry because you're losing so much experience that AI doesn't have. Yeah, you could start a project and you know that maybe 30% of that project, you've done that, you're reinventing the wheel time and time over. That's where AI can come in. That's where new technologies can come in. But that experience of knowing, okay, I shouldn't be building 3 SOPs, I should just build one with 2 work instructions.
Right, yeah.
That's more of the experience side. And as I said, using different media to transmit that. That's something that maybe AI wouldn't always know. So I'm not necessarily worried that the jobs are going to leave. I think it just means that, me included, I have to re-educate myself on how to use certain tools. And I think it's probably one of the biggest skill sets that you have right now is how to prompt, how to use AI. And that's something that I'm educating myself on. So I think it's one that we should cautiously welcome, but do not underestimate the human involved in the loop.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I think one of the challenges that people have is how to work with the technology from the standpoint of when we've implemented new technologies, we've talked about it replacing work, and what we've done is we've made more work. I joke, and when I started as a sales representative, we used to get mail like once a week.
Yeah.
Now we get that many emails in an hour if we're lucky. And when I think about it, the pace of work is just so much more difficult. When I talk to clients and trying to get projects off the ground, even though we have so much more technology, the human factor is impacted because we're asking people to do so much more because the assumption is AI, other tools and resources are going to take the place of humans. And as a consequence of that, it actually takes longer to get things done now than maybe even 5 years ago, in spite of the fact that we have technology. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I was just thinking about scenarios where, certainly in the commercial world, in my partner program that I'm running at Scilife, the best business and activation of that partnership that's created is when you meet in person. You might be having drinks or dinner, and that's where you get to know the person. AI, emerging tools, they can't do that. So I would encourage people to meet more, speak more face to face. And if we are adopting these tools at the rate that we're adopting them, let them do the hard graft of writing that 30 or 300 page procedure manual, and you do the actual business of meeting your colleagues and transferring those skills across, understanding what quality is about, understanding what commercials are about, and understanding what the go-to-market mechanisms are all about as well. You can only do that in face-to-face, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when it comes to quality, it's the same on the commercial side, ultimately, because the two sides have to talk together. We think in terms of manufacturing, R&D, and then we think about commercialization. It's two sides of the same business at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Where do you see the biggest challenges when it comes to execution? What are the biggest friction points you see with clients?
Yeah, so with clients, the friction point that we see is change control, and that's been the same or change management, I should say. That's been the same now for tens of years, I would say. Adopting these new technologies. A lot of our clients are either adopting their first eQMS for the first time, or they're moving from a legacy QMS and want an update, more modernization, want compliance out of the box. So along the journey of the sales process, it's a big education for them. So we have to educate them on why simpler workflows can be better, why maybe more complex workflows should be needed in other areas. And that's probably a part of the whole commercialization that we're doing at Scilife by utilizing partners to help our prospects become educated so they have a hand to hold when needed. It's not just the tech stack that Scilife offers, it's also all those quality processes around it. So the friction, I think, is that change management. And that, again, that can only really be done person to person. You can enable them with all the tools in the world, but at the same time, you don't want to swamp them. Having a phased approach to onboarding like we do, it works wonders. You're getting adoption, you're getting buy-in, and then eventually you're also getting penetration into other modules on the system a lot quicker than you would if you say, right, here's the Scilife system, go at it. But if you have that phased approach in tandem with partners and consultants, it works wonders. And success management and change management is pretty much handled then. And again, it's human to human.
So how do you handle that, I guess, in an organization perspective? So you have a system that you're going to release. And I ask this question because I see this on both sides of the business, whether it's a CRM tool, quality management system. At the end of the day, it's a process or something that's new. You have 100 people that have to touch this thing. And generally, when I see change management, it's a presentation, it's some level of facilitation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I oftentimes don't see first and second line supervisors and managers given the specific tools so that when they're having a one-on-one with a person or having a discussion, they can take people through that change process. And so as a consequence of that not happening, oftentimes companies have a more difficult time standing up some of these new tools. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've seen and what's worked and what hasn't worked?
Yeah. At this point, I think I should give a great shout out to our customer success team. They're absolutely amazing. They give good practice examples. They then also do some mock examples for them. And something that's worked well for me in my personal upskilling on new tools is when I do crack that nut and say, oh, this is how that process works, document it and then share it and then even demo how I did it with my colleagues so that they can ramp faster. So again, I think we're circling the wagon here back to human first. So yeah, you have the onboarding document, how to use the system. You have extremely good videos on how to use it, such as our Scilife Academy. So you can go in and find that particular that you're looking for. Maybe you're trying to open a new cap or get a report from your cappers, and you don't know how to do that. You can search the Scilife Academy for the video. But then the other side to that is you don't want your colleagues to go and spend that same maybe 2, 3, 5, 7 minutes looking for that piece of information. Why not just record your screen, show them how you did it, and then send it around? If you can have that champion on the team that can adopt new technology fast, they can also be the teachers. They can teach how to use a system and also record their screen on how to do that. So that's one thing. But then in Scilife with our customers, it's much of the same. We need that champion, of course, but we're lucky in the fact that our system is so easily used that a lot of the time they go ahead and find out how to do it, and they run faster than maybe the customer success team would normally plan for them to do, and it's great. But again, getting them on the phone, showing them how to do things, having that two-way conversation. So it's not just our customer success team presenting to one person, two people. It's sending videos. It's asking them for feedback. Maybe getting them to conduct a couple of mock CAPAs creations or creating a new document, making sure that they do it right. So I think it's that 360 view of adopting new tools. So making it a dialogue rather than just someone standing up there saying, hey, here's a couple of screenshots, click these buttons and it all works fine. People generally get something if they repeat it 2 or 3 times. So if you can spend that time to do that, you'll find that your ramp up time for onboarding goes probably 50 to 40% better than it would have.
Makes perfect sense. I used to have a manager that said repetition builds retention.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm going to steal that one, I think. But yeah, it really does. I use it all the time. When I onboarded in all my companies, I've always made notes of what I did to become on board, and it shouldn't be any different for our clients either.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about change management, there's a big communication component to it. And some of it is you just delivering the message in a different way, whether it be video, email, or whatever that is, or having a workshop, and that helps its stickiness.
I think the biggest skill that a human can have right now is communication. And, 60%, if not more, of communication is listening. So it's really underestimated how much that's needed to be able to convey an idea, get people to buy into that idea, and be open then for feedback. Same with our teams. If I'm onboarding a new client or we're onboarding a new partner, I'm open to their suggestions, making it better, iterate and reiterate. So yeah, communication is something that's big there, along with repetition.
Now, do you see any difference between working with people in manufacturing and quality versus on the commercial side, or just working with salespeople in general? Do you see any differences in soft skills or any of those type of things?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's soft skills. Definitely when it comes to people on the manufacturing floor, working within quality, working within regulatory compliance, they're looking for the fact, and you have to be direct. There can't be any smoke and mirrors. Whereas people on the commercial side, you can kind of just give them a taste of what you're trying to do, an outline, and they can then draw the dots. But in manufacturing, if you can show them step by step and take them through that process and have a discussion on each process, it's much better. I think on the commercial side, presenting and giving people an idea, generally on the commercial side, they have a bit more entrepreneurialism, so they can go and operate within that framework. On the manufacturing floor, everything has to be exact. So you then have to make sure that your communication's on point, the medium in which you're trying to communicate that is on point, given an open forum to question what you're doing and be able to really take that feedback and reiterate on it. Maybe you have to do another session. So they're the main differences that I'm seeing. When it comes to soft skills, generally no, But I think on the commercial world, just mainly because we meet so many different people so fast, we pick up on body language cues a bit quicker, I would imagine. But I wouldn't say that I have any real examples of that.
Okay. And I guess it makes sense, when you're on the quality side, things have to be a certain way. So it would be
Yeah.
natural for those are the types of people that would be in those type of roles because, you can't, there's no guesswork. It's got to be
Yeah,
a certain way.
that's exactly it. I think people that don't think like that don't last long in quality, don't last long in reg affairs. So it that makes sense. And then obviously you've got engineers that do want a clear roadmap for it. So the people that aren't suited to that, they won't last long in those industries.
Makes perfect sense. So switching gears a little bit, if you were looking forward to 5 years from now, where do you think AI is going to be and what's its impact going to be on quality?
That's a good question. And it's something I ask myself all the time and doubt and come up with a new idea. But I keep coming back to the fact that I don't think the capability of AI will change all that much right now. I think just in the way that we use it. I imagine AI to be more embedded in tools. I know that in the industry itself, we all have AI roadmaps. How we implement that AI is going to be the differentiator between the market share, the capitalization that companies get. It's all going to come from how AI is being used. So instead of moving out of a particular platform to use an Anthropic, a ChatGPT, models are available, it will be that it's embedded there, whether it's a simple model or a large language model, and maybe getting a bit more predictive. I was involved in a data science company, and it was probably one of the precursors, AI, machine learning with predictive models. And it was focused on exposure assessments in the food, nutrition, and cosmetics sector. But they came up with predictive models, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now, what we want AI to do is predict what you as a human should be looking at. Not control you, but give you a heads up on things. So that's where push and pull data comes from, and you need certain different APIs to do that, obviously, which many companies are doing now. But then for the AI embedded into the system to be able to highlight something before a human necessarily would have highlighted it. That's the next evolution, I think. How we use it, it's going to be pretty different, but what it does, it's going to be almost the same. That's my guess. But, you know, I wouldn't bet too much money on it either, the rate that it's all changing. So it's going to be an interesting ride for sure.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of points that kind of spurred some additional thinking. I immediately thought to how you go into Netflix or Prime and it kind of gives you based on your what you watch and everything. And I know one of the things that I will purposefully do is I'll go outside of my profile and go into somebody else's profile in my family to see what I might be missing or something I might be interested in watching because it doesn't necessarily come up. So there's kind of this yin and yang behind the modeling, predictive modeling of what you might think of. And I think it gets back to your point about being more human, that you have to be very purposeful in your thought process to begin to look for other ideas and other things that are outside of what your normal habits would be and what you would normally do.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, firstly, if someone, well, my fiance, if she goes onto my Netflix accounts and watches one of her shows, I generally don't like it. She's ruining my algorithm. She does get stuff that recommended stuff that I don't normally get recommended, so that could be a treat every now and again, though. Yeah, I'll give you a for instance in my daily life. I have an app called I think it's Ground News, and it basically shows you your blind spots. So based on my political views, the way the things that I would watch or at least read about in this app, it would tell me what I should be watching, or maybe to get the other side or the other version. So it'd be interesting if we could get that into quality, you know? Some people could be very much into document control and making sure that all the documents are up to date, but maybe lacking when it comes to supplier management or risk assessments. Maybe if an AI could spot that that's your blind spot and help you along that way, maybe even push some trainings to you, that would be an interesting world to live in. But I had a boss about 5, 6 years ago. He always said, if you're really good at something, focus 80% on that really good thing that you can do because you'll be better than most people at it. And then the other 20%, yeah, you're going to have to get good at it, but don't spend that much time on it unless it's needed. If it's quality,
Yeah.
we're going to have to spend time on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a Clifton Strengths coach or Clifton Strengths finder, and I think if you can find and spend the majority of your time doing what you do extremely well, that you're going to be better off than trying to do something that you're just naturally not good at.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree.
So one last question, and I guess it would be around what problems do you think Scilife is trying to solve from your perspective? Because I know you've been there just under a year. If you were looking out between now and the end of the year, going into next year, what problem is Scilife trying to solve for?
Yeah, good question. So we're trying to make quality more accessible, compliance more accessible, and streamline how companies work. I always think of it, and this is my personal view, I think of it that we're giving the small and medium enterprises and mid-size segment companies a slight edge in the market. You know, we class ourselves as a smart QMS, not just an EQMS. That means that you will get more intuitive items to work with. You'll get trainings that can be automatically generated. So that saves a lot of time. But it all comes back to a centralized message that the whole company has, which is we want to give quality professionals a voice. And if we can show them true, meaningful KPIs that they're showing improvement on week in, week out, that's doing wonders for a quality professional. Because let's face it, a lot of the time you only hear from quality professionals whether there's a training that needs happening or something's gone wrong. So, you know, there's a third one there that no one talks about, which is quality professionals do a lot of great work that goes unnoticed, and it's a given. Scilife wants to be that company and is with our current portfolio of clients, giving those quality professionals a voice back into the industry and showing everyone what such good work that they and their teams are doing. Over the next year or two, it's going to be exciting with addition of and enhancements of the system, of course, but the core message will still be there. We're trying to give those quality professionals a voice in their own companies.
That's great, Chris. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so scilife.io is our website. Yeah, feel free to get in touch with us there. My own personal email, if anyone's interested, is Christopher Hayden, Christopher.Hayden at scilife.io. I'd love to hear from you and maybe just even have a chat about the industry. But yeah, keep an eye on Scilife. Thanks, Keith.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining Inside Pharma Leadership, and I will post all of your contact information in the show notes. So thanks for joining us.
Brilliant. Thanks, Keith.
All right.